Good morning, welcome to Tende. If you look behind me, you can see what remains of a castle. And that castle was called Chateau Lascaris Castle. And it was built in the 14th century. And it was destroyed in, I think, 1692 by the army of Louis XV or 16th, I think. But anyway, the reason why I'm showing you this is the only bit that remains of the castle is that corner there, that wall. And if I turn around, there's the cemetery, and if you go through the cemetery, on the other side of the cemetery, through that door, is our garden. And today we've got rather a big job to do in the garden. So, if we look down at the time, it's already 10:25, so we better get started. So let's go. Now, the reason why I showed you the castle is because this bit of land here used to be the vineyard of the castle. They used to grow grapes here, and now it's our garden, which we're very, very fortunate and lucky to own. This used to belong to my wife's grandfather and then my father-in-law, and now it's up to us to look after. So yeah, as you can see, it's a terraced bit of land, which is very common in Tende. If you look around the mountains, you can see terraced gardens all around. And this is how they used to farm around here and how they used to grow fruit and vegetables. Although over the years they've become a bit abandoned and the walls have fallen down and the trees have taken over. Like over there, for example. If I just hold up the camera a little bit, you can see what's called the Aigle monument on the hillside. All of that hillside behind it was a terraced garden, which you can still make out, but it's beginning to get overtaken by trees and grass, and there's not much left of the terraced garden left. And as you can see, I'll show you what part of the problem is. So down here is one of our walls. And you can see what the problem is. So today's job is repairing this wall, which collapsed a few weeks ago when we had the big storm, Pt.1. And yeah, this wall just didn't make it. These walls are hundreds of years old, and they fall over occasionally. And so today we've got to get started repairing it. Right, first things first, let's put the kettle on and get changed. So now that I have my coffee, I'm going to get changed, and I'm going to put on some work boots with some reinforced toe caps, because you don't want one of these big rocks to fall on your toes and break your toes, and then also some strong leather gloves so I don't scratch my hands to pieces while I'm moving these rocks around. So let's take a closer look at the problem. As you can see, we've got a section of wall that's about 2 meters wide and about 1 meter high, and it's just collapsed. I think probably this year it was the drought we had in the summer, followed by the storm we had just a few weeks ago, Pt.1, and it's just collapsed. Some of these walls are hundreds of years old, and yeah, they wear out occasionally and need repairing. So we've got rocks of all sorts of sizes, and we've still got quite a lot of rock left in the wall itself. So I'm going to get started by removing the rocks and digging out the rest, and then we're going to sort the rocks into sizes so that we can start rebuilding. step one is complete. As you can see, I've moved away all of the loose rocks and rubble that were here and moved them aside. So what I've tried to do is, when I did that, I tried to sort the rocks as I was working. So if I turn the camera around, you can see that I've put the big rocks to the left-hand side of the wall. These are the ones you need 2 hands to pick up and work with. And then to the right of the wall, we have the medium-sized rocks. And to the right of those, we've got the small rocks. And above, I've put the pebbles and the loose earth, which we'll use occasionally for filling in the wall behind and getting rid of any gaps. But as you can see, part of the problem is the terrace I'm working on, the level I'm working on, is very narrow. There's not much space here at all. If I turn around, you can see. It's very narrow indeed. Also, it is not flat. So I don't have a lot of space to work with. Ideally, you'd have a big bit of ground that you could sort out all of the rocks with, and then it would be a lot easier. But we'll have to make do with what we've got. But one bit of good news is I got down to the bottom layer of rocks, the foundation layer, and they're pretty good. In fact, I'm not going to touch them. They're stable, if I can walk on them, and they don't wobble, so they're solid. They can support my weight very easily, no wobbling at all. So I'm not going to move those. I'm a firm believer in, I like to be thorough, but I'm a firm believer in not creating extra work for yourself. So those are going to stay. And also part of the problem is doing a wall like this is a bit like pulling on a loose thread. The more rocks that you pull out of the way, the more fall, and it's a bit of a never-ending story. So as long as it's clean, as long as it's I've got most of the mud and earth out of the way and the loose stones, I can work with this. So that's enough for today. Tomorrow I'm going to come back, and the first thing I'm going to do is put some string in so we can see where the wall's going to go, and then we're going to start building our wall. So see you tomorrow. Good morning, welcome back to Slovenia. It's another beautiful day, not a cloud in the sky, and I think it's meant to be 16 degrees maximum today. From tomorrow it gets a lot colder, however, and this time next week there's going to be rain and snow forecast. So let's make the most of this good weather and get as much of this job done as possible. Just to recap, here's where we are. The first thing to do is put some string up so we can see where the wall's going to go, and then we're going to start laying some bricks. We're going to start laying some rocks. So let's get started. So I've put my string in place. The string isn't just for the line of the wall, it's also for the angle of the wall, because it's slightly counterintuitive, because when you build a house or something, obviously you want the walls to be completely straight. But with a wall like this, you actually want the wall to lean in slightly towards the earth, and that makes it as strong as possible. So, and in French I think the word is pondage, which is the angle of the wall in relation to the ground. You don't want it to be completely perpendicular, just a few angles leaning in, and that gives the strength. Because when you think of all of this earth and rock here pushing against the wall, if it's completely straight, there's no strength, it's just going to knock it over. So when it's leaning in slightly, there's just added strength there, and especially when it rains, it's not going to push the wall outwards. So that's the reason for the string. As we build the wall up, we'll raise the string slightly higher with every level, and hopefully at the end we've got a wall with good pondage and as strong as possible. Okay, so we've done that, so let's get started with the first stones. So this looks like a good stone to get started with. Really you want big stones at the bottom to give the wall as much strength as possible. And also it's a long stone, and it's quite flat. The surface is quite flat. You want the tails of the stones to be going into the wall, ideally. So the long stones, like for example, I'm thinking maybe this will go around here. That's not bad. With the tail sticking into the wall, all of the rocks and earth behind it will press down on that, which makes the wall stronger, which is what you want. So the tails go into the wall, and I think that's not a bad stone actually, that's okay. Let's check the line. It needs to go in a little bit. Okay. Now this is leaning down a little bit, like this. So what we're going to do is going to raise it slightly. We do that with some smaller stones. So let's find some smaller stones. Okay, let's just check the angle again. Looks good. So I found some smaller stones. And we're going to raise up this stone slightly so it's not pointing downwards. So again, check the line. So it's a lot flatter than it was. It's not bad. We're going to add another stone or two around here. That's a bit too small. This one's a bit bigger. Like that. Oh, it's not bad. And then what happens is you pad the stone around where there are gaps, basically, pretty much, with other stones, and that stops the stone from moving. So there I've got quite a big gap. So that stone's going to fit in quite nicely. Some more small stones. Yeah, these ones are slightly bigger. There's a lot of trial and error involved with doing a wall like this, because you never really know until you get the stones together how they're going to fit. So often you think a stone's finished, and then you have to pull it out again, and sometimes completely replace it, or turn it round, or change the angle, or whatever. So, but I think this one here I'm okay with. I think that's pretty good. So as far as that's concerned, that's not moving in that direction. When the other stones are around it, it won't wobble anymore in that direction. So I think we're okay. Next stone. So I'm looking to fill in this gap here. It's a quite a wide gap, and this one isn't going to be wide enough, but that might go well there. Let's try another one for here. Okay, this is a nice big one. It might be a bit too big actually. So let's try putting it into place. It's nice and wide. I like that side sticking out. Ideally I'd like it to be longer. Really I should be turning this around to make as I was saying earlier, to make the tail stick in. So let's try that. Gently does it. Oh, very nice. Very nice. Yeah, that's good. That's very good. That's a nice stone. We obviously have some gap around here, so I'm going to find some medium-sized or smaller stones to go in there, and pad that out. The only thing I'm not too happy about is the fact that this stone here goes straight over the line. Really the stone should overlap, so if there's a line there, you've got one covering the top. There's the bell for midday. So you can get away with it a little bit, but yeah, I'm going to stick with that one. Let's try putting this one in here. Very pleased with this one. Nice long tail sticking out, which is going to make it very strong. That's horrible. That's not bad. That's pretty good. A little tap with the mallet to bring it into line. Yeah, I'm happy with that. Not moving. That one's not moving now. That one's not moving. So there's a gap to fill in here. There's a gap to fill in there, and then we can move on. That's good. That's good too. Happy with that. You also want to pad in the stones behind, from behind and around. And I think in English, in England at least, it's called hearting, which is the smaller stones inside the wall. And yeah, they help to stabilise the whole wall pretty much. One thing I was taught was that every stone is as important as the other. The big ones to the tiny ones to the pebbles, they're all important. Every stone has a role to play. So, yeah, even the small stones are important because the small stones help to stabilise the big stones. So if I try... Not very pleased with that. Let's try this one around the back here. Oh, that's good. Oh, that's nice. That's like a flat surface as well. That helps things. And let's try this one in here. I think if we just lift this one up slightly, tap it in with the mallet, and it broke. Oh well. Another stone. There we go. Nice. Okay. So if we can add some small stones in there, pad it out, so a few more small stones in there, and then a bit of hearting around the back, and we can move on. Okay. As you can see, like I was saying, there's a lot of trial and error, and a lot of going backwards and forwards, sorting out stones. You try one, you turn it around, it doesn't move, it doesn't work. You go back, you find another one. So yeah, it's not a job you do in a hurry. You have to take your time, and it's actually quite therapeutic because we're outside, we're in the open air, in the sunshine, and it's a very tactile job. So you know, you're dealing with the earth, you're dealing with rocks, you're dealing with stones, you're in nature. So I think psychologically it does do a lot of good, and it sort of relaxes you. yeah, takes your mind off things, and yeah, very therapeutic. Okay, so let's check out how we're doing. If I show you inside the wall, you can see that we've got to the point where we need to start filling in at the back. That's what they call the hearting into the wall. As you can see, where I can, I've put long stones with the tails going in to add that stability to the wall. So far so good. I'm fairly happy with that. There are a few gaps here. But the pondage, the tilt of the wall seems to be good, and what I've laid seems to be stable. So yeah, I'm pretty happy with that. So yeah, let's fill up a bucket with some smaller stones, and we'll start doing the hearting on the inside and packing it in from the inside. So that's about all I've got time for today. The sun's just about to go behind the mountains over there, so we're going to start losing the light soon. So yeah, I think probably we're about a third of the way there. Got 2/3 left to go, and I'm relatively happy with that. I don't claim to be an expert in this. I did a lesson once when I first came to Tende on how to make these walls, but yeah, there are people who do this for a living, and it's they do a better job than this. But as far as I can tell, it's a good wall. The walk test, yeah, nothing's moving, nothing's wobbling. So that's pretty good. There are a few little gaps around, but then there are in the original walls as well, so they sort of blend in. So I hope you found that interesting, and I hope you come back for part 2 of the video when we finish this wall off. I'll be back here tomorrow to start work on that. In the meantime, please let me know in the comments section whether you have any advice, whether I've done something horribly wrong. I don't think I have, but yeah, your comments are very much welcome, and I'll see you next time. Thanks for watching. Bye bye.